thousands of visitors made it by sea or by air and evolved into species that were found nowhere else on Earth. With little competition and few predators, they had found a paradise. But now the paradise is under siege. Paleoecologist David Burney, here with his son, is exploring the Hawaiian island of Kauai to better understand what happened after the Polynesians arrived around 600 AD.
I'm trying to find sites that really give a general picture of what the whole landscape was like, where you have a record of plants and animals and human activity and everything that you could possibly reconstruct about the whole landscape. What I call my poor man's time machine.
The time machine is a sinkhole where mud and water have preserved 10,000 years of Hawaiian evolution. With 2 small generators and hoses, Burney drains it every day.
I like to think of it as sort of like trying to open a window into the past, downward into the past, in order to get all of these different kinds of fossils that would give you details of nearly everything that was there. We often recover a very large amount of very well-preserved material, including, in this case, for instance, bones of a number of birds and snails, possibly even a few plants that were unknown to science.
It's a tedious, messy job, but the mud preserves the evidence perfectly. In a given day, Burney carries 1,000 pounds of sediment out of the sinkhole. Volunteers then wash, screen, and pick through it for fossils and artifacts.
As soon as the Polynesians get here, we see evidence in the sediments for big changes.
That's because the Polynesians didn't come alone. They brought with them biological invaders, plants, dogs, pigs, rats, new predators that fed on and displaced Hawaii's native species.
Ah, there's one of our culprits. Jawbone of the Pacific rat, probably about 1,000 years old. Once we start finding these, a lot of the native species start rapidly disappearing.
The sediment tells the tale.
Over the ensuing 1,000 years or so, the human population grows. You know, at first we were talking about a relatively small number of people who came in outrigger canoes. Couldn't have been that many. But over time, the population on this island in prehistoric times built up to probably something like the population of the island today. There were a lot of people here. People have a big job transforming the landscape, cutting down trees, burning off the grasslands and the brushlands. And as a result of these impacts, then smaller creatures began to go extinct. At the time that Captain Cook arrived, the wave of biological invasions really crest. Suddenly there are all these goat bones and goat teeth in that layer. Suddenly there's a lot fewer birds and trees around. The Polynesians brought only a small number of species with them. Europeans have brought hundreds and hundreds of species. We're now to the point where there are about 1,000 native species of plants in the Hawaiian Islands and over 1,000 naturalized invasive species, things that have been introduced by people. The evolution has now entered a new mode. Something new altogether is happening, and it has to do with what humans do to the evolutionary process.
The invasion of Hawaii is a microcosm of what's happening throughout the world today. At any moment, 100,000 people are suspended in planes over the Atlantic Ocean, traveling from one continent to another. Cargo is sent to the furthest corners of the Earth in a matter of days or even hours. And with it comes other, smaller passengers who are not going to get back on the plane and go home. In ships, ballast water is taken up in one port and discharged in another. With it comes invasive species like the zebra mussel, which arrived in the United States in 1988. Quick to reproduce, these 2-inch-long mollusks encrust spawning grounds, clog water pipes, and consume plankton, which native fish and mussels need to survive. In the past decade, the US government has spent $4 billion trying to control them. Many animals and plants that find their way in can easily adapt to new environments and flourish. Some of them don't cause problems, but there are others we'd rather were not so good at sneaking in. In our new interconnected world, the invasive species we carry with us are dramatically increasing the rate of extinction of native life.
Some of these animals were brought in by private individuals as pets. Some were brought in either for resale as far as food products. And some of these actually stowed away on some of our aircrafts and ships that arrived here in Hawaii.
The brown tree snake is one of them. Originally from New Guinea, it can grow up to 11 feet long. During World War II, the snakes began to climb the landing gear of planes and curl up in the wheel housings, or hitchhike rides on cargo ships. When they arrived in Guam, the snakes would slither off and head for the jungle. Then they would climb trees in search of food. The eggs of the native birds were easy targets, and 9 of Guam's 11 forest bird species were driven to extinction. Hawaii's Department of Agriculture now has to use trained beagles to sniff out the snakes.
Where is it?
This time, it's a test for training. But the next time, it will be for real.
Good girl. The last brown tree snake that showed up here was found in the wheel well of a Continental Micronesia 747 aircraft that arrived the day before from Guam. It does show that the snakes are getting up there. The main word for the Hawaii Department of Agriculture is that the brown tree snake becomes established in Hawaii. Hawaii leads the nation in the amount of endangered species. Okay? Many of those species are birds. Okay? If Hawaii loses on native birds, we also lose a lot of our native plants, and the whole ecosystem in Hawaii will be affected forever. And the paradise we know might not be around in years to come.
My suspicion is that of all the things that we've done to the planet so far, whether it's climate change, things we've done to the atmosphere, things we've done to the water, pollution problems, all of those are bad things. But I think, as it stands right now at least, that the thing we've done, which will be most visible in the fossil record in 1 million years, is going to be these biological invasions.
Scientists have a term for biological invaders. They call them weed species. Like weeds, they survive and adapt almost anywhere and push out the native competition. They are the ultimate survivors.
There's quite a bit of speculation and theorizing about why invaders seem to be so successful in moving into a new area.